Thank you. Thank you, Director Freed. Our next speaker is a former colleague of mine at the State Department, where he served as Undersecretary of State before serving the United States as permanent representative to the United Nations. Please welcome Ambassador John Bolton.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, Madam Rajavi and others, for inviting us here today to this very important discussion. I think 2012 is going to be a dispositive year for Iran, for Iraq, for the broader region, and perhaps the world, because of developments taking place there. And I think that in many respects what happens to Camp Ashraf and the MEK are, as we say, canaries in the coal mine. We're going to learn a lot by how these issues are resolved. Let me start first with Camp Ashraf and the disposition of the people there. You know, the United Nations is a culture of its own. I know how it operates. I understand why there are difficulties with dealing with the UN assistance mission in Iraq, in part because it sees itself as accredited to the government of Iraq. Part of its objective is to make sure it gets along with the government of Iraq. So I think it's very important, as Madam Rajavi and others negotiate with Ambassador Kugler, that those who want an equitable and correct result for Camp Ashraf understand what needs to be done to persuade the ambassador and the UN bureaucracy in New York that their principal responsibility is not making the government of Iraq happy. It's protecting the residents of Camp Ashraf. Number two, UNAMI is not the only element of the United Nations involved here. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees has global responsibility for refugees. You know, the symbol of UNHCR is a picture of a refugee family with two human hands forming a roof over it, depicting HCR's mission of protection and assistance. The UNHCR doesn't operate under any illusions that it's responsible to member governments where refugee populations live. I think that the High Commissioner for Refugees really needs to take a look at the symbol on the flag in his office and remember that protection and assistance for the refugees comes before anything else. And I think members of the UN that care about that should be insisting on it. I'd say a nice symbolic thing for the High Commissioner to do would be to take his flag and get on a plane from Geneva and go to Baghdad and drive to Ashraf and plant that flag in Camp Ashraf. You know, most refugees come across international borders with little more than the clothes on their backs, and it's the responsibility of HCR to provide them with protection and to provide them with a place where they can take refuge until they're either moved to other countries or they can go back to their own country without fear of persecution. Camp Ashraf is not a problem. Camp Ashraf is an interim solution. And how tragic it would be. What a stain. What a stain on the reputation of this Nobel Peace Prize winning agency to preside over a degradation in the living status and freedom and welfare of refugees. I just really don't think if the West and others put appropriate pressure on UNHCR that Commissioner Gutierrez really wants that to happen. And I think it's important that he understand that. Now, let me turn to the question of Iraq. You know, there are those in the world who believe that the reduction of U.S. military capabilities and the withdrawal of American forces will contribute to international peace and security. I believe they are 100% wrong in that view. And there has not been, I think, a more tragic demonstration of the error of that way of thinking than to see what's happening